Welcome to the Press Box. I'm Ryan Thorburn, joined by Steve Mims. This is Oregon's bye week, right in the middle of the season this year, and Steve, they really needed a bye week, but unfortunately for Mark Helfrich, that gives people time to write stories about his future and speculation that it might be coming to an end at Oregon. This week, Rob Mullins came out on an Oregon-run radio program and said that he'll evaluate the situation at the end of the season. He appreciates the fans' passion and all that, but there's still 6 games remaining. Mark Helfrich said that he's not concerned about his job right now. He's concerned about turning things around. Kind of a tough bye week for Mark Helfrich and the Ducks, coming off 70-21 loss to rival Washington.
Yeah, I looked at Rob Mullins' comments, and it didn't read to me as a vote of confidence by any means. I thought, this wasn't Rob Mullins saying, hey, Mark's our guy through good times and bad. We'll weather some bad times. We know we're going to come out good on the other side, and he's the guy to lead us through the future. He's got time to turn it around, but he's got 6 weeks basically, and then we evaluate at the end of the season, which tells me that, a team that's kind of trending downward right now. I mean, you could argue they've played worse, at least defensively, in each game come through the Pac-12 season. If this thing doesn't turn around in the next couple weeks, if they end up with 4 or 5 wins and a losing record, no bowl game, it almost sounds to me from what Rob Mullins said that there would certainly be a consideration if they don't feel like at the end of this season things are turning upwards, that they would consider a change.
Oregon hasn't fired a coach in 40 years since Don Reed was let go after his 3rd season. The program was patient with Rich Brooks and ultimately rewarded with a Rose Bowl. They were patient at times with Mike Bellotti, who's now in the College Football Hall of Fame. But let's be honest, Chip Kelly took it to a whole different level where you're competing with the Alabamas and the Auburns of the world to try and win national championships. And, a lot of those programs, right or wrong, are not patient. And it'll be interesting to see if Oregon remains patient, or are they now in that culture where it's win or go home with your buyout?
Yeah, it's easy to say, and I think people have said, hey, Oregon's not an SEC team. This isn't going to be one that's going to make a rash decision. Or Oregon fans know themselves, they lost to Auburn in the national title game, and 2 years later, Gene Chizik was fired after beating Oregon. But I think we're in a different time now. I don't think there's any doubt. Oregon relies so much on football for their funding in terms of getting crowd. We've seen crowds are not showing up. And they're may not get a bowl game, gets the pays that come with that. I think that now it's a bottom line business, and if you're not making a bowl game, and if your sellout streak comes to an end, I think we're seeing that those things can cause a change to come right away. I mean, when you have the power brokers of this program, they're not going to sit and wait and say, hey, we can deal with another down year, 2 more down years if they think it's trending down that way. I think that's what we're seeing. And so, I think there's a party that says, man, Oregon's not the kind of program that can fire a guy 2 years after going to a national title game. I think the comments this week from Rod Mullins pretty clear that this is a program that will make a change when they feel it's time.
I see the argument that Mark Helfrich, should be considered on the hot seat based on, last year's Alamo Bowl collapse, the Utah loss last year, these recent losses to the Washington schools. I mean, they don't seem equipped to compete on defense and not well prepared, once Marcus Mariota left at quarterback. But at the same time, there's strong arguments to be made that Mark Helfrich should be able to continue on. I mean, he has a 35-12 record, and he was the head coach of record for their most historic season, in my opinion, the 2 years ago Pac-12 championship, Heisman Trophy, Rose Bowl win over Florida State, national title appearance. I guess, how do you see Mark's defense? Is it as simple as winning 4 of the last 6 games? Or could he endure maybe a 5-7 season with the promise of Justin Herbert and a young offensive line and the hope that Brady Hoke can really have a dramatic change on defense?
I think he could. I think you're looking at, you better win 4 games. You better get to a bowl game. You better win the Civil War. If this season ends with a loss to Oregon State, that might be the automatic end. But 5-7, I just think that the issue that's brought this about is the fact you're looking at such a drastic drop. I mean, this isn't going from 9-4 last season to 8-4, or 7-5, and you still secured your bowl bid. This is people looking at the fact that you could be looking at 4, maybe 5 wins, a defense that ranks 126 out of 128 in the country. You made the change. Last year it was defensive coordinator was, hey, we're going to make a change and improve here, and it's been worse this year. So I think that's what people look at more than anything in terms of pointing out against him, is just how steep this fall has been so quick, and just how drastically and almost historically bad this defense has been now 2 years in a row, and it seems to be getting worse each week.
My response usually to people who want to fire a coach is, okay, that's fine, that's your opinion, but who are you going to get to replace him that's dramatically better. I mean, we don't need to go through all the names, but do you feel like there's candidates out there, that are automatically going to get it back to the level, and are they going to change the style of play?
I have no doubt if they make a change, they'll have a guy in mind. I mean, I think with your Nike connections, you're going to have people who may already be going through some back channels. Find out who's interested out there. If you find a guy that you want, that may be what it comes down to the most important thing for Mark. It may not matter what his record is. It might be who the people they have behind the scenes looking around to see. Is there a name or two they want? And if they look into it and get interest back, they may make a change regardless of what these next 6 weeks go. At the same time, they look into it and can't get the guy they want. They hang on to him and say, hey, we'll give it another year, and then we'll see how Mark does. And if we end up in this situation, maybe we've got a new class of candidates. But I think with Rob Mullins and Phil Knight's connections, if a change is made, I think the successor will be known before the change is made.
Well, we'll see how it all plays out, and we'll talk to you next week where we will do like Helfrich and focus on Cal. Until then.